What if I told you that you're already following dark psychology rules without ever studying psychology? Every day, your decisions, reactions, and emotions are subtly shaped by invisible forces. This is the unsettling truth about dark psychology. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't wear a villain's mask. It works quietly through human emotion, fear, validation, ego, insecurity. The real power of dark psychology tactics is that they operate beneath awareness. And when you don't see the rule, you automatically obey it. Have you ever defended an opinion just because it felt like yours? That's not logic. That's psychological ownership, a powerful manipulation tactic rooted in behavioral psychology. Dark psychology rules exploit identity. The moment something becomes your belief, your brain protects it like territory. Skilled manipulators understand this. They don't argue with you. They plant ideas subtly, let you claim them, and then watch you defend them fiercely. This isn't random behavior. It's philosophy weaponized through psychology. Why do you trust confident people even when they're wrong? Confidence triggers authority bias. One of the most common dark psychology tactics is projected certainty. When someone speaks without hesitation, your brain associates confidence with competence. It feels safe to follow strength. But here's the disturbing part. Manipulators don't need to be right. They only need to sound certain. In the world of manipulation tactics, emotion always outruns logic. Have you noticed how fear makes you act faster than facts ever could? Fear compresses thinking. It shuts down analysis and activates survival mode. Dark psychology thrives in that moment. Whether it's media, advertising, leadership, or relationships, when urgency is created, compliance increases. Act now. Last chance. You're falling behind. These are not harmless phrases. They are calculated psychological triggers. The philosophy behind them is simple: emotional pressure weakens resistance. What if the reason you comply isn't weakness, but wiring? Human psychology is built on social survival. We crave belonging. We fear rejection. Dark psychology tactics manipulate this ancient programming. Subtle exclusion, silent treatment, withholding approval. These are not random behaviors. They are structured manipulation tactics designed to destabilize emotional equilibrium. And the scariest part, most people using them don't even consciously realize they are applying dark psychology rules. They've learned them through observation and repetition. Why does repetition make lies feel true? Because familiarity creates comfort, and comfort creates belief. One of the most dangerous dark psychology rules is simple repetition. Say something enough times, and the brain stops questioning it. This is how propaganda works. This is how toxic narratives survive. Psychology proves that repeated exposure reduces resistance. Philosophy teaches that perception shapes reality. Combine the two, and you control belief. So what does this really mean for you? It means you are not just observing dark psychology, you are living inside it. Every interaction contains influence. Every conversation carries subtle power dynamics. The question isn't whether manipulation tactics exist. The question is whether you can see them before they shape you. And this is only the first layer, because once you understand the rules people follow unconsciously, the next step is learning why these rules exist in the first place. What if these dark psychology rules weren't random at all, but designed centuries ago? When you study dark psychology deeply, you begin to realize something unsettling. These patterns didn't appear by accident. They were observed, refined, and structured through philosophy and power strategy. Long before modern psychology existed, thinkers were decoding human behavior. They understood that people are driven less by logic and more by emotion, fear, pride, ambition, insecurity. And once you understand emotion, you understand control. Why did power always belong to the one who understood human weakness? Because dark psychology is not about cruelty, it's about awareness of human vulnerability. The framework behind manipulation tactics is simple: people seek pleasure and avoid pain. If you can promise one and threaten the other, you guide behavior. This isn't chaos. It's calculated psychology. Throughout history, rulers, leaders, and strategists have relied on these dark psychology tactics to maintain authority. They didn't control armies first. They controlled perception. Have you ever wondered why people obey, even when they disagree? This is where philosophy meets psychology. Humans crave stability more than truth. Dark psychology frameworks exploit this emotional need. When someone presents themselves as the source of order, direction, or certainty, the mind feels relief. That relief becomes loyalty. Manipulation tactics are rarely aggressive in the beginning. They offer security, and once emotional dependency forms, control follows naturally. Why does power always revolve around perception rather than reality? Because perception shapes belief, and belief shapes action. Dark psychology operates on this principle. If people believe you are powerful, strategic, or superior, they respond accordingly. The framework is simple but ruthless. Control the narrative, and you control the mind. Modern psychology confirms what ancient philosophy already understood. Humans respond to symbols, status, and emotional signals more than raw facts. What if manipulation tactics are simply amplified human instincts? Think about it. Jealousy, competition, admiration, fear, these emotions existed long before society became complex. Dark psychology doesn't invent emotions, it leverages them. The framework behind it is built on predictable psychological reactions. Praise someone strategically, and they soften. Ignore someone deliberately, and they chase validation. Apply scarcity, and desire intensifies. These are not accidents. They are structured psychological responses. Why does strategic coldness often command more respect than kindness? Because unpredictability creates tension, and tension creates attention. One of the core principles behind dark psychology tactics is emotional contrast. When warmth is inconsistent, it becomes valuable. When approval is rare, it becomes addictive. This isn't morality. It's behavioral psychology mixed with philosophical realism. Humans are wired to pursue what feels scarce. So why do these dark psychology rules continue to dominate today? Because human nature hasn't changed. Technology evolved, society evolved, but emotion stayed the same fears, the same desires, the same hunger for validation and control. The framework remains powerful because it is built on timeless psychological truths. And now that you understand that these rules aren't random, that they are part of a calculated psychological and philosophical structure, the next question becomes even more dangerous. What happens when you break them? What happens the moment you ignore the hidden laws of dark psychology? You don't just lose an argument, you lose control of the frame. And in psychology, the one who controls the frame controls the outcome. Dark psychology isn't loud, it's subtle dominance. The moment you overshare, over-explain, or emotionally react, you hand power to the other person. That's the brutal truth behind dark psychology tactics. Control is never taken, it's surrendered. Have you ever noticed how the calmer person usually wins? That's not coincidence. It's psychological positioning. When you react emotionally, your nervous system shifts into defense mode. But when someone stays composed, detached, and measured, they appear superior. This is one of the most powerful manipulation tactics rooted in both philosophy and behavioral psychology. Emotional neutrality signals strength. Break this rule, and your emotions become predictable weapons used against you. Why does desperation instantly reduce your value? Because scarcity increases worth, and neediness destroys scarcity. Dark psychology teaches that whoever wants less holds more power. When you chase validation, attention, approval, or reassurance, you unconsciously communicate lower status. It's painful to admit, but human psychology responds to perceived hierarchy. The moment you seek too much, you lose leverage. That's not cruelty, that's psychological reality. Have you ever tried to prove yourself and somehow felt smaller afterward? Explaining yourself excessively is one of the biggest violations of dark psychology rules. When you defend every accusation or clarify every misunderstanding, you signal insecurity. Manipulation tactics often rely on provoking you into justification. Once you start explaining, you are playing on their terms. Philosophy calls this frame control. Psychology calls it power imbalance. Why does silence make people uncomfortable? Because silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates psychological tension. One of the most underestimated dark psychology tactics is strategic silence. When you respond slowly, speak less, or allow pauses to linger, you shift control. People rush to fill silence. They reveal information. They expose emotions. But when you break this rule and speak impulsively, you give away your position. What if the real danger isn't being manipulated, but being predictable? Predictability makes you readable, and readability makes you controllable. Dark psychology thrives on patterns. If someone can predict your emotional triggers, anger, jealousy, ego, fear, they can steer your reactions. Manipulation tactics don't require force. They require understanding your emotional blueprint. When you constantly react the same way, you become easy to manage. Why do people respect mystery more than transparency? Because mystery triggers curiosity, and curiosity sustains attention. Human psychology is drawn toward what it doesn't fully understand. When you reveal everything about yourself too quickly, you eliminate intrigue. Dark psychology tactics emphasize controlled disclosure, revealing just enough to maintain influence. Break this, and you fade into predictability. So what does losing control actually look like? It looks like arguing harder while being heard less. It looks like chasing someone who barely moves. It looks like reacting emotionally while the other person observes calmly. Dark psychology is not about aggression, it's about strategic emotional management. And when you violate its rules by reacting impulsively, over-investing, or seeking approval, you shift from influencer to influenced. Now the tension builds. Because if breaking these rules costs you control, the next question becomes even more unsettling. What if dark psychology isn't theory, but something happening to you right now? Look at your daily interactions. The way someone delays a reply. The way a leader speaks with controlled certainty. The way advertisements create urgency. These aren't random behaviors. They are applied dark psychology tactics working in real time. Psychology is not just something you study. It's something you experience emotionally every single day. Have you ever felt an intense desire for something simply because it was limited? That's scarcity, one of the most powerful manipulation tactics in dark psychology. When you hear only 2 spots left, or last chance, your brain shifts into survival mode. Logic decreases, emotion increases. The philosophy behind this tactic is simple: humans value what feels rare. It's not the object that creates desire, it's the fear of losing it. Dark psychology leverages that fear masterfully. Why does someone ignoring you suddenly make them more attractive? Because unpredictability stimulates psychological tension. When attention becomes inconsistent, your brain releases more dopamine in anticipation. This is intermittent reinforcement, a classic dark psychology tactic. It's used in relationships, marketing, leadership, even friendships. Give warmth, then withdraw it. The emotional fluctuation creates attachment. Manipulation tactics don't rely on force, they rely on emotional imbalance. Have you noticed how powerful people rarely argue? Instead of debating, they reframe. Reframing is a core dark psychology strategy. If someone criticizes them, they twist the narrative calmly. They don't defend, they redirect. This is frame control, a principle rooted in both philosophy and behavioral psychology. The person who defines the meaning of the situation controls the emotional reaction to it. Break this, and you argue inside someone else's reality. Why do apologies sometimes feel like weakness instead of strength? Because timing defines perception. In dark psychology tactics, apologizing too quickly can signal lower status. Skilled manipulators understand emotional hierarchy. They wait. They let tension build. They let the other person question themselves first. Manipulation tactics are about emotional pacing. The one who controls timing controls psychological dominance. Have you ever agreed to something you didn't want, just because you felt obligated? That's reciprocity. Another subtle dark psychology weapon. When someone gives you a favor, compliment, or small gift, you feel internal pressure to return it. It feels moral, it feels fair, but manipulators weaponize this instinct. The philosophy behind it is simple: humans hate emotional debt. Dark psychology exploits that discomfort to guide behavior. Why do group opinions influence you more than you admit? Because belonging is a psychological need. Social proof is one of the strongest manipulation tactics in existence. If everyone appears to support an idea, your resistance weakens. You don't want to feel isolated. Dark psychology understands this tribal instinct. It amplifies consensus to suppress doubt. What do all these examples reveal? They reveal that dark psychology is not dramatic or obvious. It's subtle, strategic, and emotionally intelligent. These tactics operate beneath awareness, through fear, desire, validation, scarcity, status, and belonging. They are not chaotic tricks. They are structured psychological patterns rooted in timeless philosophy. And now the tension becomes unavoidable. Because if these manipulation tactics are happening in everyday life, and if they are this powerful, the final question is no longer whether they exist. The final question is whether you can master them or remain controlled by them. Have you ever wished you could read people's minds? Not literally, but imagine understanding their desires, fears, and triggers so well that you could guide interactions without force. That's the power of dark psychology when applied consciously. The same dark psychology tactics that manipulate you can be used ethically to influence, persuade, and protect yourself. Psychology teaches that understanding human emotion is not just insight, it is power. What if you could spot manipulation before it happens? Awareness is your first weapon. Every manipulation tactic relies on subtle patterns. Emotional exploitation, strategic timing, authority cues, scarcity, or social proof. When you recognize these patterns, you regain control. Dark psychology is only dangerous if you are unaware of it. Philosophy reminds us knowledge is power, and insight into human behavior gives you the ultimate leverage. Why do some people always seem in control of situations? Because they understand emotional frameworks. Dark psychology rules, when mastered, allow you to maintain authority without aggression. You control the narrative by controlling your responses. Manipulation tactics no longer dictate your actions, you dictate them. Every reaction becomes intentional, every interaction an opportunity. The psychology behind this is simple: influence flows where emotion is managed, not imposed. Have you noticed how confidence attracts cooperation naturally? Confidence is a psychological magnet. Dark psychology tactics exploit it to dominate. You can harness it to inspire and lead. When you project calm certainty, people willingly align with you. Philosophy calls this ethical persuasion. Psychology explains it as social influence. And human emotion responds consistently to those who seem composed, capable, and in control. Understanding this allows you to turn potential manipulation into mutual advantage. What if you could ethically use scarcity and timing to motivate action? Manipulation tactics often rely on scarcity, urgency, or anticipation. But when applied ethically, these principles can help others prioritize, focus, and achieve results. For example, giving someone limited time to make a positive change or opportunity motivates them to act. Dark psychology doesn't need to be sinister, it can simply guide human behavior in alignment with productive outcomes. Why does framing matter more than facts? Because humans are emotional decision makers first and logical thinkers second. Dark psychology rules show that the way information is presented shapes perception. By framing communication thoughtfully, you can ensure understanding, reduce conflict, and gain compliance without coercion. Psychology proves this, philosophy underlines it, and every skilled influencer applies it daily. Have you ever wanted to protect yourself from hidden manipulation? By mastering these dark psychology rules, you create a mental shield. Recognize triggers, emotional cues, and cognitive biases before they affect you. Awareness transforms fear into empowerment. Manipulation tactics lose their potency once you anticipate them. And the emotional satisfaction of reclaiming control is immense. Confidence, clarity, and calmness replace anxiety and uncertainty. So what does ethical mastery of dark psychology look like? It's seeing manipulation before it happens. It's influencing without coercion. It's guiding interactions using insight into human emotion, philosophy, and behavioral psychology. You gain authority while maintaining integrity. Every decision becomes intentional. Every interaction becomes a strategic opportunity. This is the culmination of understanding dark psychology tactics, psychology, philosophy, and manipulation tactics, turning awareness into empowerment, subtlety into strength, and knowledge into control. This is where true power lies, not in dominating others, but in mastering yourself first.